What if smartphones never existed? How would our world be different today? If you're thinking, well, then people would just use feature phones, well, think again. You see, feature phones are still dumb. Phones, as cool as they might seem next to a smartphone, are still dumb. They don't have the same capabilities, power, or reach. So what would life be like without those sleek glass rectangles that most of us couldn't live without? Well, let's find out. Smartphones changed everything, from how we work to how we connect. They transformed every industry and even the way we think. Without them, we could expect some major differences. Here are 5 ways our world would be different if smartphones never existed. Part 1. Daily life. First, no more late-night scrolls. Ever stayed up too late scrolling through your phone? Yeah, well, no more. Without smartphones, communication would go back to calls and SMS. You might even still use a landline at home. And while text messages would still likely be a thing, there would be no instant messaging apps like WhatsApp, iMessage, or Messenger. There would be no Reddit or Discord either. While these services would probably still exist, they wouldn't have exploded in popularity the way they did, because you need a smartphone for them to be practical. No more DMs or late-night scrolls. And that might not necessarily be a bad thing. It could mean earlier bedtimes and a whole lot less screen time. No smartphones also means no apps that rely on mobile data plans like Spotify or YouTube Music. So you'd still carry around a separate MP3 player for music. Oh, wait, that's right. We'd all still have those because they never went away. In fact, without smartphones, you'd still carry around a bunch of gadgets, each with its own purpose. That includes things like a camera, GPS device, voice recorder, gaming console, and maybe even a dedicated video camera. Of course, these devices would still exist since technology doesn't simply disappear when certain products don't sell, but they'd be more expensive and harder to use than modern smartphones, which do it all. Part 2. Society and culture. Without smartphones, our society would look drastically different. For starters, there'd be no social media boom. Apps like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok have become a staple of modern life for billions. But without smartphones, it's unlikely that they would have become so popular. These apps rely on people having internet access wherever they are at any given moment. But without smartphones, the only times people really have access to the internet would be when they're at home or in an internet cafe. So instead of posting your every move on Instagram, you'd save those pictures for when you get home to upload them to your Facebook page. No quick scrolls or story posts. Also, there would be less screen addiction. With smartphones being practically glued to our hands, it's easy to forget that face-to-face conversations require a good amount of focus, as opposed to scrolling through your feed where the information is coming at you pretty fast. The rise of smartphones has had a massive impact on our brains, making us all a bit ADHD. Without smartphones, we might be able to go back to focusing on one task at a time. Without constant notifications pulling our attention, we could be able to hold conversations with people without checking our phones every 2 minutes. Part 3. The economy and big tech. The smartphone boom has made some companies incredibly powerful. Apple, Samsung, and Google are now multi-trillion-dollar companies thanks to their mobile devices. Even Microsoft is seeing record profits due to the switch to mobile-friendly web browsers. But without smartphones, these companies wouldn't have become so dominant. That's because the real money in the tech industry is in apps, games, and digital services. Now, many of these can be accessed via desktop computers. But the growth in the app economy is enormous. Companies like Uber, Airbnb, DoorDash, Instagram, TikTok, Amazon Flex, and countless others rely on people being able to easily call an Uber from their phone, order groceries from anywhere, share images on social media, or watch a quick video while waiting in line. And many of these businesses wouldn't exist in a world without smartphones. Businesses would still use computers for most of their operations, but the transition to digital platforms wouldn't be as rapid. A big example of this is banking. Today, most of the world's banks have apps that allow you to check your balance or make transfers from anywhere. But before smartphones, people relied heavily on cash. Digital wallets were available, but they weren't nearly as popular. So without smartphones, the entire financial sector would be much slower. No more quick transfers or instant payments. Part 4. Education and employment. We already mentioned that education would be slower without smartphones, but what about employment itself? You see, the smartphone era has created tons of jobs, whether it's software developers, app designers, social media managers, or freelancers. Tons of jobs today require people to be constantly connected. And a lot of work gets done through apps like Slack, Teams, or Discord. But without smartphones, a lot of these jobs simply wouldn't exist. On top of that, a lot of other jobs depend on the app economy. For example, a lot of restaurants rely on services like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub to deliver their food. These drivers often have side gigs and use their cars to earn extra income outside of traditional jobs. But without the app economy, these services might not exist. This is the same case for many retail workers who have been replaced by self-checkout kiosks in recent years. A lot of these technologies wouldn't have developed without smartphones. Part 5. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Before we get into how a world without smartphones would affect humanity as a whole, let's take a look at the positive and negative effects we've touched upon already. The good news is that without smartphones, we'd probably be a lot less distracted. We'd likely be able to focus on one task at a time without the fear of missing out on something happening across the globe. We'd also have stronger connections with the people around us since we wouldn't be glued to our phones during dinner or on a date. Our sleep would also be much healthier since we'd stop using our phones as alarm clocks and avoid the blue light that keeps our brains active at night. But the bad news is that we'd have a much harder time accessing information. No more quick Google searches or looking up a fact while in the middle of a conversation. We'd also communicate a lot slower. Sure, we'd still use the internet, but there would be no instant messaging, no video calls or quick emails. We'd have to wait for the next train or bus to send a message or receive one. And finally, the ugly truth is that without smartphones, we'd be less connected as a species. Think about it. Every year, millions of people travel abroad for education, work, or pleasure. Smartphones make it easy to find people from your country no matter where you are in the world. It's also easy to find your local Filipino, Chinese, Indian, or Italian community in any big city. Without smartphones, we wouldn't be able to do any of that. And we'd likely miss out on a ton of great experiences and opportunities. So what's the verdict? Would you want to live in a world without smartphones? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.